YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I have my defensive lineman rankings, top 10 defensive linemen in the 2023 NFL Draft. We already did edge rushers. That is in the last video. Some players you might consider as edge guys are actually going to be in this video, some tweener players. So I'm excited to break it down to a variety of different style players here. Might have a surprise or two as well. We have a playlist full of these ranking videos. We have all kinds of NFL Draft content and definitely more to come. Before, during, after the NFL Draft. We live during day one, so make sure you join us here on YouTube for that. Join us on Twitter for day 2 and 3. Twitter's an absolute must follow. You're missing out if you're not following it. Links pinned in the comments for that. Discord, and our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid Heavy, Walk the Mock. Number one, very obvious. Jalen Carter, just the off-the-field issues is what isn't, what knocks him down a little bit. What is not obvious, I suppose, but it's a big question mark. But an elite grade, he would be the number one player in the draft for me if it wasn't for the off-the-field issues. Still going to be in the top 5 because the talent is just ridiculous. Unblockable at times, especially even if he's double-teamed. He's unblockable sometimes. The combination of power and athleticism is ridiculous. He has the length. He has the get off, and he didn't line up everywhere a ton. He did line up everywhere, but not a ton. Mainly just over the guard. We've seen him a bit in the B gap, but it's a guy that you really could, because of his talent, you could line him up anywhere on the defensive line. I mean, he has the foot speed / quickness of an edge rusher. Not that anyone's gonna line him up off the edge a whole lot, but and it's tough to say he's anybody's Aaron Donald, but. And there's obvious differences and measurables, things like that. But you see Donald moving around a bit. Just such a good player that you can put anywhere and he'll dominate. Could Carter be, that guy? He finds ways to win in multiple ways. Not just versus the run, versus the pass, but a different collection of moves. Just using his hand strength, his power. It's pretty much across the board. He can find ways to win. But yeah, the off the field issues and character concerns are concerning. Is it something that's going to continue to go on? Can he clean it up? Can somebody get his mind right? Really, the only thing off the field is, racing. It seems to be, and being involved in a serious situation case, at Georgia. That's obviously serious, but. I guess if you can find an upside to it, there's some guys with off the field concerns. It's like, all right, there's this thing, there's that thing, or can this thing easily lead to more issues? Like this seems to be one thing perhaps, but then could there be a serious case with what happened in the Georgia situation there, where obviously people lost their lives. So that, I'm not really the off the field expert, but that is a tough situation. But I also could see the scenario where he cuts the shit, he cuts it out and he figures it out there. On the field, can run out of gas at times. Not talking about, can't help myself, not talking about, with the cars. But on the field, you see him kind of wear down, lose some energy at the end. And we actually saw that his pro day. Like he actually couldn't finish the pro day because he was just gassed, and that's obviously not good. So that's pretty tough, It's kind of a big thing because, you want him to, he's an elite interior defensive lineman. And maybe with the impact and measurables, maybe I've seen some comparisons of a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, how good he is. But then, everyone's trying to find the next Aaron Donald, the impact he makes. But if you want the impact that those guys make, they not only make them all game long, but they make them in the most important situation in the game at the end of the game where they have full energy. They gain energy in those moments because they live for those moments. And does Carter have that? That's a legitimate question there. He's still young, still trying to, I suppose, get in the right NFL shape. So that's definitely something that can be fixed. But for an elite player that, just purely off the talent in the highs, like number one player in the draft. But for a guy like that, there are some there are some concerns, including the off the field issue. So very interesting. And this is where I'm going to surprise people for sure. Number 2, I got Keeanu Benton. I'm a huge Keeanu Benton fan, the Wisconsin defensive tackle. Good size, good build, obviously. Just feels like an NFL interior defensive lineman. And I like the versatility as well because he spent most of his career at Wisconsin, actually all of it, playing nose tackle, and some after that. But he was mainly a nose tackle for the first couple years. But he would get some reps at, more in the B gap, the D tackle range. And then the last year, it was a good balance between or I shouldn't even say good, because I would like there to be less balance, honestly. But he actually got a little bit more reps, over 50% snaps around the B gap, more of a D tackle than over, the 40% range as a nose tackle. So heading in the right direction, because I think this guy is an NFL defensive tackle. I like him hanging around the B gap a little bit more. And the beautiful thing about that, I guess you could say, well, yeah, now he's probably going to be a full-time D tackle. Some team's going to view him like, what is he? Because Wisconsin didn't really know they knew what he was. He's a good ball player, but I think it's more of a positive because he always kind of felt like a D tackle, and Wisconsin gave him more reps there. He should have even more, but they gave him more reps there this year, and he shot up in production. In his backfield production, his backfield play, just forcing things in the backfield went up. Sack numbers, tackles for loss, all that went up. He also added to his pass rush game, I'd say, more moves, more production getting after the quarterback because he was moved to D tackle. So he showed improvement. I think there's proven upside there when it comes to being NFL defense tackle. So I absolutely love that. 21 years old, good build, super powerful. Again, I like that he has the versatility. You can use him at nose. There's a lot of those D tackles that are taking off right now. Guys that used to be nose tackles and they're more D tackles now, but it's great that you can put them at nose when you need to. Some of those guys just got paid. Deron Payne, Javon Hargrave, Dalvin Tomlinson. These guys were originally just purely nose tackles, and there's some other guys doing the, Dexter Lawrence is kind of doing it now. He's going to get paid soon. These guys were purely nose tackles at one point, and you saw the upside at D tackle. They proved it there. Now they're playing more there. They're dominating, and then when you need them to play nose tackle, you got it. You got the guy. You got a 2-for-1 special, and that is what I see from Keeanu Benton there. So that's why I'm a huge fan, what he could be. He's just getting going, what he could become. Already polished against the run. He throws his opponent sometimes, whether it's going against a guard or a center. He has a nice club move. He'll throw the guy sometimes he's not even trying to, send him flying. He just hits him with that club move or the swim move, and he's so strong that he sends the guy flying in the backfield, making a big play. He's the bursts, closing quickness, speed on the quarterback or whoever's in the backfield is pretty impressive as well. I like the balance. You really can't budge him. More often way more often he is moving his opponent, guard or center, than they are moving him. Way more often. So I'm a big fan of Benton. I like this tape. There's a few games where he actually looked dominant. There was a game against Michigan State. I believe that was this year's game against Michigan State. Minnesota game. Pretty decent teams. Teams that have pretty decent offensive lines usually too. Some players on there. So I'm impressed with Keeanu Benton. I'd take him in round 1. I know there's a lot of people that like him more and more since the Senior Bowl. He hasn't really been getting any talk in the first round. He hasn't really been getting love when it comes to mocks and predictions in the second round, even though we all like him a lot. I'm even guilty of that, not putting him in the second maybe enough than where he should. Got around the film somewhat recently, and I'm just a big fan. The big negative that I did not like from him, the ball is snapped, and his first thing would be to stand straight up. You can't do that, obviously. So is that a false step, or I don't know if he really steps back. He's just kind of up and then go. It's not super long, but it's just something I noticed that you definitely got to fix. I think it can be fixed. There are more athletic defensive tackles. That's whatever, it's a passing league now. So I think that's a mistake people make, though. It is a passing league. You want to find the athletic pass rusher. That's who stands out most. Those are the guys who get the money, who get the recognition. So everyone's looking for those guys. But I think that's the mistake that people make at the same time. Because to be an interior defensive lineman, you have to stop the run first. If you can't stop the run, forget defensive tackles, just teams. If you can't stop the run, you cannot win big-time football games. You still have to stop the run first, especially when it comes to the interior. You can stop the run. He's solid against the pass, and I think he's continuing to improve and will improve against the pass. But not a freak athlete at all, but it's all right. Yeah, Wisconsin mainly had him as a nose tackle, then kind of added some more D tackle snaps, and they're kind of in the middle there. They're usually pretty good with their defensive linemen, so maybe they just kind of put him where they felt he was most important, but you do wish he got way more snaps in the B gap. So what's the reason for that? Not really a huge negative there, but I like Benton. I think this is, again, this is one of those guys, that nose tackle experience, Definitely seems like way more upside at D tackle and a natural at D tackle. It's the types of guys that are taking over today's NFL. I think people I think they're wrong to look at identifying the right defense tackles. They're looking for like pure athleticism and guys that just get after the quarterback. I think we're just too worried about finding like an Aaron Donald. There's really no one else like him, in the league. Let's look for our guys that, the Daron Paynes, the Jeffrey Simmons, the Javon Hargraves. Dalvin Tomlinson's a big one that stands out when looking at Benton, who's definitely thicker than Benton, but those style guys, people are kind of sleeping on a little bit there. Maybe surprisingly, I have a round 1 grade on Keeanu Benton, who started to stand out since the Senior Bowl. Wasn't really a huge name during the year for some reason because his tape is really good, so it's surprising. Number 3, I'm going to go with Bryan Bresee, a tough one as well, because this guy would be like a guaranteed first-round guy. Maybe would be my second-ranked guy, probably would be, if it wasn't for the legitimate, serious durability concerns and issues. So that's the big thing with him, because you love this. 6'5", about 300 pounds, and the athleticism, running 4.8. He's twitchy, he's quick, a pretty good get off. All those combined, it's pretty rare, and it's very impressive. And he has experience at every D-line position. Like, he's literally played every position a pretty good amount as well, mainly D tackle. And even off the edge, sometimes they would put him off the edge and he would slide in, or he would stay there. So teams would be like, what is this guy doing? Because actually, as a top recruit, he was more of an edge guy. So you thought coming in, like, he looks like he's too thick to play the edge, but he was so good there. So is Clemson going to play him off the edge? What are they going to do with them? First year, it's like they kind of toyed around with a bit of everything, and they kind of found his role that he's more of an interior guy, but we can play him everywhere. So I do like the versatility, the experience all across the board, and I do like that he's kind of just getting going on more of a D tackle role, sort of. So he has a lot of upside there. I think he's really good at getting after the quarterback. You see like kind of the edge moves within him playing in the interior. Impressive instincts too. He seems to know, he can read run. He knows when it's run. He's not going to get fooled on, the direction the ball is going or misdirection, anything like that. And I do think he has high upside. If he's healthy, he's going to be better than this. He's going to be better than number 3 in this class. He's going to be better than the round 1-2 grade, which the injury factors in big time with that. He's going to live up to that top recruit that he was supposed to be if he stays healthy. It's pretty plain and simple. So that's really it with him. And again, going from edge to more interior, I think that says upside too, because I think he's just getting going there. But yeah, serious durability concerns. He's seen knees, seen shoulder, like a kidney thing too, which that doesn't really long term. That's not really a long term thing. I remember. Stephon Diggs, I don't know if it was kidney. Just random, but Stephon Diggs had that at Maryland. And it was something that should not have been legit. That was the only thing he had. It should not have been like legitimate long-term concern. It's kind of like a freak thing. So people were kind of overreacting from something like that. So that specific thing, not really focused on. The amount of starts he had in the last 3 seasons, 7 in 2022. 4 in 2021 and 10 in 2020. So that's you obviously want to see a lot more than that. I know college football, sometimes 12 games, so 10's okay, but that was the first season. So those numbers aren't great. Underwhelming production, even though he was, a disruptor, impactful, shared with production with a pretty damn good defensive line. But yeah, for that top recruit, a lot of hype. The traits and the ability are there. You wish there was more production. Too patient at times, because he has the flashes and the traits and the ability to get in the backfield and cause a ruckus. But sometimes he kind of gets himself locked up purposely with the offensive line, we'll say guard for the most part. And he's able to handle, the offensive lineman. Like he's in a position to win. But he'll kind of be patient and wait for the ball. And he knows how to read where the ball is going, but, instead of just getting in the backfield, making a play when he has the ability to do so. So understanding his ability, getting the most out of him could be big. It's really about staying healthy. And, he could end up being like a top 10 player. If he's fully healthy, no concerns going forward, he can end up being a top 10 player from this draft. So kind of all over the place. With a guy like this, when you're legitimately concerned about the durability. Again, the starts in the last 3 years is not. It's It's underwhelming, very underwhelming. Number 4, a tricky one here, and Calijah Kancey, who seems to be a fan favorite. I am a fan as well because his highs, like his big time plays, are just wow. Like you get out of your seat, you get jacked up because how big of a play he can make, mainly in the passing game there. For Pittsburgh as a legit, explosive, productive pass rusher from the inside, which everyone's looking for. And he's a similar athletic profile and measurables as Aaron Donald, production somewhat similar as Aaron Donald, and Pittsburgh on top of it. So I do see what everyone says. Like there's some similarities there in the strengths and, for the most part. And he's just one of those guys where you go, like, I don't know if I want to overthink this. Like, he's just super productive. He gets after the quarterback, so he's going to continue to do that. You definitely understandable to think that way. He wins with his lateral quickness. He wins with his athletic ability. He's pretty strong for an undersized guy, too. Quick hands, quick feet. Just being a great athlete. That's the way he wins. And it really stands out, like getting big sacks, getting big production in the backfield, on the quarterback. Not even just in the pass. Sometimes, he had a nasty stick on Hendon Hooker in the Tennessee. It's a big game. It's a big-time offense where Hooker was going to take off up the middle. I don't know if Kancey was playing pass and just happened to be right place, right time, but it looked great. So there's plays like that. He is undersized. I know so was Aaron Donald. That was the issue with him. Aaron Donald was a different prospect, though. He was better. He did have more production. He was just much better, mainly in the run game. Run defense was a little different, but really undersized in the length. Like he's got very short arms, and that is tough when the offensive linemen are getting lengthier and lengthier, and struggles to shed blocks, actually, which probably isn't getting talked about enough, because he wins a lot, especially in the pass game where he's just too quick or his hands are too quick, just too explosive. I mean, with pass rush moves, too. He just instantly beats the guard, off the ball, and that's where he makes the play. But if, he doesn't win early and the guard gets his hands on him, he struggles to shed the blocks, and especially in the run game where you're not going full go to the deep end of the backfield, the pocket. That's where he, struggles to shed the blocks as well. So he's tough because in a way, you almost have to project how teams are going to use him. Like, I mean, this is a guy that potentially can get a lot of production in the passing game, but I can definitely see there's teams out there that'll just only, like, we're going to use this guy on passing downs because he knows how to get after the quarterback. He might get some sacks, obvious passing downs, third down. Like, do we have use for him in the, early downs, the running? Because teams want to stop the run first. They understand. You have to, it's kind of underrated in today's NFL, but you have to stop the run first on defense, especially when it comes to the interior defense lineman. So teams may go like with his, we're kind of turned off by his length, getting off blocks in the run game. We love him as explosiveness as a pass rusher from the interior. But how often we're going to use him, and then also, is he just a 3 technique? Are we going to line him up over the guard? Are we anywhere inside that? Over the guard's possibility. Anywhere inside that? No. So. Is he just, there's been good 3 techniques in every draft, and it's very, very common that like the pure 3 techniques who play just a hair outside of the guard, outside shoulder pad of the guard, that just, because there's, not everyone like really uses them as much as others, and they end up dropping a little bit. They end up going a lot later than what people expect, so that could surprise people as well. So a lot of teams might be doing both those, like where, one or the other, where it's like, how often are we going to use him? Is he just a 3 technique? And teams might do both those things, but somebody might just be blown away, from his ability to rush the passer from the interior, which is game changing. Like if you can, because it's such a quick trip to the quarterback, just going straight from the inside rather than, what most edge rushers do is go outside the tackle. It is a big time game changer. So if somebody's just really looking for that, and maybe because you might want to take gamble and might want the next possible Aaron Donald here, you take a shot. But I expect him to go in round 2, even though there is some round 1 production and talent, in terms of the passing game from his defense, understandable. But yeah, he's a tough one. He's a tough one because where he's kind of limited and it's going to be a lot more difficult, against the NFL guards because he relies on like winning right off the snap right away. Everyone's not going to do that as much in the NFL, so it's tough. Teams I could see may rather take a shot on my number 5 guy, and Adetomiwa Adebawore from Northwestern. Because he was more of an edge guy at Northwestern, but he played quite a bit of 3 technique inside as well. But teams may rather take a shot on him at 3 technique than Calijah Kancey, because Calijah Kancey, a lot of pass rush production. He's a freak athlete, and he's actually known as the fastest 40-yard dash from a D tackle in combine history. Well, Adebawore was not listed at the combine as an interior defensive lineman, and most teams will have him as a versatile guy, but more teams, will teams favor him as interior or off the edge? I'm telling you, maybe not by a whole lot, but more teams will view him as an interior guy. So if he's an interior guy and he ran a 4.49, technically he's the fastest guy, from that position in the history of the combine, which isn't everything. But my point is, you have a absolute freak athlete here with, I think, tremendous upside once you get him in the right spot, once you work with him a little bit. He's going to be raw. It's going to take a little bit of time, perhaps. But he has the flashes. He's pretty instinctive against the run. He can win in different ways because, he has that speed and power combination. I like the experience inside and out. You could play him outside. If it's I like him, a D-tack, but if it's a 3-4 end or a 4-3 end at times, I'm good with it. I would like for a 4-3 team to take him so he can kind of play 3 technique and 4-3 end, a little bit of both. But yeah, when you see him off the edge, the best pass rush moves are mainly going inside. But he's, again, he has the speed and athleticism for the outside. Does he have, the proper size for the outside? He's not really, he's 6'1", that's a little short, but the, arm length just over 33, that's really not lacking too much for the edge at all. But, I think because of his size, because of his play style, because where he has his upside all on the inside, that makes sense to play him on the inside. But, did miss some tackles, so you do worry about that in run game because you have to be a good run defender to play on the inside. Definitely will need some time because he's got a lot to work on. We got to find him the right home. He's the ultimate tweener. It's like, a lot of those guys don't work out where it's like, where do you play him? It's a tough call. Is he better inside or outside? A lot of those guys don't work out, but the ones that do work out are really, really good. So teams might just pass because they just really aren't 100% sure without having their hands on him in their defense already. That's the tricky part of the draft. They might not take a shot, but the reason that I have Kancey ahead of him because he's a little safer, a little obviously more polished. We know his position, has the crazy production, but teams might go like, all right, the reason to take Kancey is, besides the production, is because he's very athletic from the inside. He can get, good pass rush, but then Adebawore, he's just even more, of a freak athlete, and there's just so much upside when he's, playing that spot as much as Kancey, perhaps. So teams might go, we'd rather take a shot on this guy with a more appropriate length because Adebawore has great length for the inside too, and he's going to play, if you want to be able to move around, he's going to play the outside. Definitely better than a guy like Kancey, who could line up over the tackle as well. But he's number 5. Keeanu White's very tough. I am back and forth. He's the ultimate tweener, really, for me. Because Adebawore, I'm feeling pretty good about listing him in the interior. But Keeanu White, I'm like 50-50 on. Is he an edge guy? Is he a D-line guy? I'm going to list him as D-end because he's going to play D-end, in my opinion, in either scheme. But he has experience kind of standing up, some experience standing up. So I'm starting to hope he goes to a 3-4 team so he can maybe play at 3-4 end because he has the size and the power to do so. That's where I like him, 3-4 end. He doesn't need to play 3 technique, doesn't need to play D tackle, even though he has the size for it. I like him at D end, 3-4M. But then if you have the option to put him at outside linebacker because he does have the athleticism, believe it or not, even though with the size. So he can play both. So I'm starting to think that's more likely, and that's where I like him. He's starting to grow on me with that thought as well. Like, all right, yeah, that could be fun because he can play both spots. But I do like him at 3-4 end a little bit more just because the power and people like rave about like the how good of an athlete he is, but it's mainly because of his size. Like, he's a big guy, 280 whatever pounds. It is impressive, but he still isn't the athletes as the guys that weigh 260, 250. Definitely not the athlete as those guys. So sometimes that shows up outside, off the edge, doesn't really have the pass rush moves. He's very raw because he was a tight end turned pass rusher. That's a tough part too. He's raw. He's still learning wherever you put him. He's still got to get better. He's an upside guy, a raw upside guy at age 24. It's a little tough. It's still young to me. I'm not one to overreact about age. Some people do that, but it is tough. A guy that's bounced around a little bit. Old Dominion, Georgia Tech, which he had like record-breaking numbers at Old Dominion that last year, but in terms of tackles for loss, which is impressive. But yeah, some guy you really got to work with, an ultimate tweener at age 24. Definitely needs to improve his pass rush moves. But the way I talk, where it's like, the idea of him like playing 3-4 end and 3-4 outside linebacker and being able to be effective at both, or a 4-3 end, that kind of makes you like him. But his tape overall, like he'll have flashes where it's like, wow, that guy's a big dude moving pretty quick off the edge, and he's barely played the position. Like, wow, that makes you go, wow. But then a lot of the tape is very underwhelming, like not moving around too much, kind of stuck in one spot, not showing me a collection of moves, anything like that. So the tape as a whole, based on talent right now, does not say second round even. It says third round, probably. That maybe is even a question. But then you factor in upside if he's put in the right spot. The idea of him playing multiple positions like we've talked about kind of pushes him into the second round for me is a little bit of a gamble. And there's a lot of hype about first round. He's actually been invited to the NFL draft, which not every guy that goes and sits at the NFL draft gets drafted for. We know that. We always see guys waiting around, but there isn't a huge list of guys going, so maybe they usually feel pretty confident, and they get feedback from teams. So the NFL, that is. So somebody can just fall in love with the idea of him and be playing multiple spots, being versatile. He's a boomer bust guy, plain and simple. Mazi Smith at 7, nose tackle from Michigan, who also can line up at D tackle on the B gap. Very powerful. That's kind of his game, just being a powerful dude, moving. He's inconsistent in that category, though. That's kind of the negative, too. I mean, the battle against Steve Avila, who is like your ultimate power guard, like anchor guard, they had a pretty good battle. Mazi, nobody's really ever able to budge Avila. Like, you have to get around him to beat him, which could be done. But if you're going to just straight try to move him, it just really wasn't done at all. And Mazi Smith was able to do it a few times. But there was times where Avila just pushed him straight back. I mean, he actually put him on his back a couple times too, which from a guy like Mazi Smith, that's his strength. That's like his that's where he wins. That's his size, and maybe he's not as athletic he was in the earlier years. Definitely wasn't, because he's trying to be that big time nose tackle, have that power. Like, he should never, be beat like that. So that's where he's inconsistent, because like that's his playing card there. And to kind of be beat in that category sometimes is tough for me. Polish versus the run. At the same time, it's like, here's a nose tackle that's good against the run. He's like not, he can fill gaps, and guys can't really get around him. Like, he'll latch on and get you. Like, you're not going to get by him too much if you're trying to run the ball. But, how early do you take that guy? Usually not early unless they're pretty damn flashy in that category. And that's kind of the thing. He doesn't really get in the backfield. He kind of just patient, wait, and like, all right, I'm not going to let him get by me. He does a good job of that. But that's kind of my issue on why, I thought I was going to like his tape a little bit more. I thought maybe, because he's been kind of firm as a second-round guy. And I thought, I had a feeling, maybe I'll watch his tape. Maybe we talking about him. Maybe like how I was talking about Keeanu Benton, how much I like Keeanu Benton, but it wasn't really there with me. Like, if these types of guys usually don't go as early as you think, unless they like do something freaky or, that like crazy, but he's kind of like a safe run defender. And there's upside versus the pass. He claps more pockets, where he doesn't really get the credit for, so that's good. But yeah, inconsistent play strength and very little, and when that, strength is his thing, even though mainly like that, it stands out more than it doesn't, but in very limited backfield production. Javon Dexter, which is an interesting guy to me, because he's kind of weird, because he played more like 3 technique at Florida, which is outside shoulder pad of the guard, usually like a pass rushing D tackle, and he was pretty productive there. I think pretty good against the pass and the run. He seems like he's better against the run to me. but his size and his play style says they had him too far outside. And he's actually gained weight from the combine to the pro day, like 8 pounds. I think he was 318. So his like play style and his ability to just plug gaps and stop the run and not let anybody by him, almost says more interior than he was, and it being like 318 almost says, is somebody going to put him at nose tackle? I can see it, but yeah, for his size, big dude, he ran a 4.88. I mean, that was surprising, but that's damn impressive as well. And he was pretty good at, in the B gap area. Do you keep him out there? So it's interesting, like, where do you play him? But I feel pretty, you're gonna get similar play, whether it's inside or, over the guard or, wherever it is. So he's definitely interesting, and he was pretty productive, pretty impactful for Florida. So pretty interesting prospect. Siaki Ika, Baylor nose tackle. Yeah, I like him at nose tackle. Teams are going to start him, or they're going to start him in the game at early downs. Power dude, like pure strength. Gap plugger type guy. And then he's a really big guy, quick feet. Not overall quick feet compared to other guys, but for his size, yeah. I like him kind of collapsing some pockets, and I've seen some big time pass deflections as well. So he's just really good, over zero technique, over the nose tackle, over the center. But yeah, not the best athlete. Definitely on the slower side. Likely used on early downs, and that's it. But he's pretty impressive on those downs. And then Carl Brooks, who's another tweener, he actually played off the edge for Bowling Green, and he was damn productive playing off the edge, like outside the tackle, even standing up at over 300 pounds, playing edge, but even standing up quite a bit outside of the tackle. Pretty wild, because this is not going to happen in the NFL, though. A guy over 300 pounds, like, it's just not going to happen. But he was super productive. I know he didn't play the best competition, but he was super productive out there as well. He's got some good moves. He's definitely quick for that size. For a 300-plus pound guy, he's very quick. Like, he has the edge, type play style. Not as fast as some of the other edge rushers we talk about all the time, but he's got good moves, quick feet, quick hands. But he's going to change positions. Like 300-plus pounds, he's going to change positions. Somebody might try him 3 times. I like him as 3-4 Like, he be able to, rush the passer still. I mean, there's some pass rushers like that in the NFL that are, they're still not even 300. Some of those 3-4 ends aren't 300 pounds. But like a guy like Draymond Jones who taken off, maybe he can be like a guy like that, but he's like 286, 88, I'm guessing, but it's definitely 280s. So maybe it could be a player like that, but and he's lacking length too. Even for like a 3-4 end, you definitely need more length. You wish there was more length, but for an edge, he's too heavy and he doesn't have the length, even though he's played well out there. So that's tough. So changing positions, how tough is that going to be on him? So he's a risky one. Based on, like, it's going to be a pretty big change. But at the Senior Bowl, they had him in one-on-ones lining up on the inside, and he was able to use some of his moves there. So you're going to get a pretty good pass rush from the inside. And because of his size, you would think, he needs to have more power for his size, more power to play on the inside. But he has that size, so I think it's got to be in him. So he has some upside playing inside. In the Senior Bowl, they had him moving around quite a bit, like three technique, even further inside. And I actually thought he was getting better because he gets there and they're like, all right, that's where you're playing. He's like, it's foreign to him a little bit. And I think he was getting better with that, in that process, I suppose. So, and then was not at the combine at all, was not invited. Maybe your teams just didn't know what to do with them. I don't know, so, but he was productive. He's an interesting one to say the least. So a guy that's maybe a boom or bust guy, but once you get to the 3rd, 4th round where he's going to go, like late 3rd, I could definitely see 4th just because he's, it's just a risk. Is it really much of a bust? Like, do you consider a guy a bust when he goes down there? So somebody's going to get a guy with a lot of upside. It'd feel really good if somebody got him in the 4th because with that, that'd feel really good. But a lot of tweeners, and I think I have all of them with this group, rather than the edge, because Keon White, I'm like 50-50 on that. Like I said, I could see him going to that 3-4 and playing a bit of both. 3-4 end, which I group with the D lineman, or a 3-4 outside linebacker, which he doesn't feel like that type of guy because of the size, but I can see him playing both. Adebawore was more of a 4-3 end, so that would categorize him with the edge, but I feel good about him playing more inside, being a little bit more of a project. So there's some Carl Brooks, another one. A guy who just missed the cut here, Colby Wooden. from Auburn who was good for them. Like, I'm back and forth on what the hell he is too, because he's not the freakiest athlete, but he's quick like an edge rusher. But does he have like this? It's tough. And then Auburn was kind of back and forth. They used them both, but like 3 years ago he played more inside than off the edge. Then 2 years ago more edge than in the inside. And this year pretty damn balanced, but more inside than outside. He's pretty productive in both. Does he have the play strength for the inside? Does he have, the twitchiest, like he's athletic though, but the full athleticism to play the edge? 3-4 ends, kind of split the difference there for me. So that's kind of where I was feeling, but I can see a team's probably going to have a hard time thinking where to play him too. So that's why he's tough. He's a good ball player, likable guy. So that's another one kind of like Karl Brooks, but Brooks has more of the size upside to play on the inside. So, yeah, maybe this group I actually thought of a little. There's some risky guys. I like the group, but there's some risky picks. But as you can tell, I'm a Keeanu Benton guy. I think he's a safe pick too. So, yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts here. We have a playlist full of these rankings. We have the linebackers, corners, and safeties to do still. We're cutting it pretty close. I mean, we're going to get it done, but we're going to have all kinds of NFL content. Can't wait to get to those DBs. I played defensive back, so I always can't wait for that. But, yeah, we have the full NFL coverage here, full NFL draft coverage. So if you can join us, make sure you check out that Twitter. That is very important. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.